Hi, Julie.
Hi.
How are you?
Showing my age, apparently.
Well, yeah, I've had that kind of week. I get it. Believe me. It's just trying to figure out which way's up and down.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I
Well,
just got off vacation last week,
me
so.
too. Me
Did
too.
you?
Yeah. So it's like I'm getting back and all these little things that are usually no big deal become magnified.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, but it's great to meet you. Where are you coming out of?
Orlando, Florida.
Oh, wonderful. I was
You
just
can't
talking to my
tell with
yeah,
the, yeah.
yes, absolutely. Totally. I was talking to my son today about when I was 12, a family friend took me down there, and Orlando was like, I mean, that was in 85. The thing I remember the most about that trip was literally we stayed in the hotel. I can't remember which one it was. They were doing a big, huge secret meeting about the new Coke. They were like unveiling it.
Whoa. So you were at the beginning of the disaster.
Exactly. It was like a hurricane waiting to happen. So it was like by the time the whole thing came out was over with, it was like pleading the fifth.
Oh,
It
man.
was
Oh,
crazy.
I bet.
So it was interesting. I always remember that. But it's great to meet you. Before we get into your life and your work, what I would like to know is we all went through quite a thing like New Coke with COVID, and it
Yes.
all worked on us in its own way. How did you survive that time period now that we're entering this post-pandemic era of our lives? And how has
Mhm.
it changed you?
Well, I was working with a consulting company that I actually was a boomerang into the consulting company. So I'd worked with them before. I'd been laid off when I was 55. I went back into that consulting company. And so I was laid off 3 months into COVID.
Wow.
And I'm the primary breadwinner of our family.
Yeah.
So I was panicked. At the time, I was 57 years old
Wow.
and terrified, obviously. And so I said, okay, what the heck? I had started my business before. I resurrected my business, and it was the best thing ever. So I loved it.
Okay. So you
Yep.
found triumph in the tragedy, a silver lining.
Yes. It was
So
probably the best thing that ever happened to me, frankly.
I've heard that a lot about certain events and scenarios. So let's get to the essence of exactly what you do. I mean, there's one
Yes.
thing about looking at it on paper, but there's another reality. So let's boil it down this way. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders, career day. A kid
Yeah.
looks up and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Okay. What I do is I help grown-ups when they go into their jobs and things have changed. Somebody comes in and they took away their old computer and they gave them a new computer and they're very confused and they don't know what to do. I come in and I help them be okay with it. And I help them learn to do the new things and I help them be okay with all the changes that have to happen. And even sometimes when they're really, really scared and they're really being mean to each other because they're scared, I help them not be so scared anymore.
So, what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
I wanted to be a college professor and teach
Okay.
English.
Well, I guess what you're doing is a little bit like that, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Actually, what I found was with English literature, really and truly, it's a study of human behavior under stress. And when I went into corporate America, all of a sudden I'm seeing human behavior under stress. And so change management just came naturally to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually wanted to be a college professor when I didn't know what I was going to do. And it was before I had my son Miles. And I was taking my GRE and everything went really
Oh, yeah.
well. I was going to move to Chicago. I'm in Kansas City now. And I realized how much money they make and how
Oh,
much
yeah.
education they have to. And I was like, why? What?
Uh-huh.
Like, I did want to do it, but there was a lot more that went into it. But that basic bottom line was like, there's something way lopsided. Now, if it was a little bit equidistant with money and effort and what you would get, maybe, but no, that's like the parable of the guy rolling the rock up the hill and it comes down. It's like, that's what's going to happen,
I had the exact same thing. I was accepted. I was in my master's program and finished. Took the GRE. Well, I took the GRE to get my master's program. Was in the master's program, put myself through that, put my husband through his bachelor's program, was accepted into a PhD fellowship. We were driving my Toyota Tercel from Cleveland to Muncie, Indiana. I was going to go to Ball State. We're driving down. We went through, we saw what we were going to be living in, the whole 9 yards. We're driving back, and I looked at him and he looked at me, and I said, I can't do macaroni and cheese for another 5 years.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just can't do it.
I hear you.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
So I went right back into, I went into corporate America, and that's where I stayed for quite a while.
Yeah. So in
Yeah.
this journey in your life, who's been a hero? Who's been somebody that's consistently inspired you?
Wow. So many. I think I can't point to one specific person. I think it has been a combination of very, very strong women that have inspired me. And I point out strong women because unfortunately, the men in my life have generally disappointed. Unfortunately, for me, that's just been the case. But I have been very, very privileged to have been taken under the wing of some very strong female front runners in their fields. A woman banker who was in her 70s was so unbelievably respected and so out there in banking when it was unheard of, for a woman to be in a position that she was in. She was an executive vice president. She would pick up the phone, and the president, CEO of the bank, drops everything and took her calls. And she was the very first person who recognized, and I was a temp. I was a temp answering her phone. And she was the first one that recognized not that I had the right degree or that I had, the specific skills to be a banker, but she recognized the talent and the innate skills that I could bring to the table in my leadership and some innate stuff that I had. And she said, let's find this girl a job. She can add to the value to our bank.
Wonderful.
And without her and without some others that came along the way, I don't know that I would have had the courage, to pursue the things that I pursued over time.
So let's whittle that question down to this. If you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend a little time with them, who would it be?
Michelle Obama.
There you go. That's always number one.
Michelle Obama and Oprah, number two.
Yeah.
Those two ladies. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just fascinating, phenomenal women.
So those two women have obviously a lot of motivation, a lot of things that drive them. What is that for you? What is the drive for you to do your job and to get things done well?
Mm-hmm. Obviously, it is encouraging the younger generation of women to keep fighting the good fight, to stand in our power as women, not to think that we have to become men or to become other than what we are, to use our strengths individually, not just as women, but as individual people. It's not about women or men. It's about everyone bringing whatever they have, whatever strength they have, whatever biases they have, recognizing those and overcoming those. It's bringing what value you personally can bring into the world and using it for the good of everyone. To me, that is what I'm passionate about. It's it drives me insane when we fight over stupid stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
What?
oh,
Yeah, no, I get it. Trust me. What has been one of your best success stories professionally that always gives you a smile?
oh wow. Um, Probably my biggest success story isn't my success. It is the success of several of the women and men who have been on teams that I've led. Um, Watching their careers just take off from teams that I had years and years ago. And now I see them on LinkedIn publishing Thought Capital, and they call me still.
Yeah.
You know, they will send me messages and say, hey, I'm going to be in Orlando. Can I have lunch with the best boss I ever had? Or you were really hard on me. You know, thank you. It's that old adage of um, the the whole thing about being a teacher, you know, the whole thing about wanting to be the professor. That was what I really wanted when I wanted to be a professor.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to give and grow other people, and I was able to do that in my corporate career. And so, to me, when my former colleagues come back to me still, even years and years later, and ask for advice, or they come back to me and thank me for a particular lesson, those are the things. That's the highlight of my career.
So, of all of the things that you've done and accomplished, what are you the proudest of?
um, those people.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, let's go into your timeline a little bit here. You know, we gain wisdom over time based on all the
Yeah.
things that we do. So, if you were to have a dream tonight, you ran into the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice, what would you tell that version of you?
Stop doubting yourself. You have it. Being confident does not mean cocky. Being confident in what you know does not mean that you're being cocky. You can be humble and confident at the same time.
So, what was the book? What was the first book for you that you read that really made you either want to read more or really inspired you?
Oh my gosh. I began reading when I was about 3 years old, 3 to 4
Wow.
years old. Yes, that was my thing. Reading was my thing. So I don't remember a time
Yeah.
when I wasn't reading.
Yeah.
As far as what book has most inspired me in any given point in my life, I would say the ones that have had the most impact on me would be Maul Flanders has been one that has inspired me from a feminist perspective. It really highlighted for me at a time when I hadn't really thought about women in history and what it was like to be a woman in history. I hadn't really thought about that until I read that book. The 18th century British Romantics um, speak to my heart. None of the business literature really
Right.
speaks to me, only because it a lot most of it leaves out emotion, or if
Yeah.
it mentions emotion, it downplays
Yeah.
emotion. And I think I lead with emotion and intuition,
Yeah.
which is difficult in a business environment, or it used
Certainly
to
is.
be.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's changing now because, we're all human beings. And I think the business world could use to understand that a little better.
Well, and I think that the COVID pandemic put a spotlight on mental health. I think people are, much more um, uh, ready for that than we ever have before. So, all of these people in your life have a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I think I'm a bit crazy, a bit funny, and really smart.
You could put that on a coffee cup,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
great. I like it. Hey, this has been great. Thank you so much for opening up. Before we get out of the proverbial door here, where can people go to learn more about you, hire you, anything about you in your world?
The best place is jnoonan.consulting.com.
Cool. This has been
Mhm.
wonderful. Hey, thank you so much, Julie, for opening up, for your story. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. Take care.
All right.